Good evening, I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. A government minister is concerned over a proposed U.S. bill which could see remittances to Barbados and other CARICOM countries being taxed. The Border Wall Fund Act of 2017, introduced on March 30th by U.S. Republican Mike Rogers, is the latest attempt to fulfill U.S. President Donald Trump's promise to build a wall on the Mexican border. Minister of Finance Chris Sinkler says while countries like Jamaica, Haiti and Guyana would be affected much worse than Barbados, there will still be significant effects.
To have a tax placed on remittances means that less of the money will get to the recipients, family members, companies, businesses and so forth, civic organizations for which donations are made. If cash donations, if there is taxation on that at the U.S. end, obviously it would reduce the amount that is sent over, and that would have an impact, certainly if not on the country, definitely on the persons who receive the resources.
Well, if passed, affected countries will face a 2% fee when sending money back home, and it's expected to fetch over $2 billion in revenue for the U.S. government. Mr. Sinkler also expects to see a regional response if the bill is passed.
I think CARICOM will be looking at it as a group to see how they can speak to authorities in the United States about what exactly they're proposing to do in the bill, and if they can't stop it, how they can constrain the amount of imposition that is on. But of course, you know, the United States is a sovereign country, and taxation is within the right of every sovereign to determine.
6 ardent supporters of the Democratic Labour Party were officially placed on the party's memorial wall this morning at its George Street headquarters. The family of the late Earl Glasgow, Joyce White, Vincent Phillips, Carl Seeley, Michael Sobers and Eldeline Blackman were on hand to unveil the plaque bearing the names of the 6 DLP stalwarts to be forever remembered by the party for their unwavering contribution to the institution. Housing Minister and MP for St. Lucie Dennis Kelman told immediate family members as well as party supporters they should be immensely proud of the men and women honored.
They have done human service not only for the party but for our country, Barbados. These people did not support the Democratic Labour Party just because they love the Democratic Labour Party. They supported the Democratic Labour Party because of its program and because they felt that the party did so much for the country and the poor people.
Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Senator Irene Sandiford Garner, says she will never forget the work Mr. Carl Seeley did for her in the parish of St. Andrew. She thanked the party for recognizing people who are often ridiculed for their open affiliation.
It is usually a labor of love for an institution that they believe in. And when they decide that they're going to support a candidate, usually that candidate reflects what the institution means to them. And they fight to the bitter end, not only on the streets with us when we knock on doors, but wherever they go, because wherever they go, they are recognized. When you become a foot soldier of a party, you are literally branded.
DLP General Secretary George Pilgrim says the honorees were not afraid to be associated with what they believed in.
This pride of association is what distinguishes the politics of today from the politics of yesterday. Today, we are faced with an army of fake names and profiles who find all the time to go online and harm the brand Barbados. That is why this event this morning is significant, because the party faithfuls we pay tribute to today understood what was involved in building relationships and communities, despite the political divide.
Vincent Phillips' daughter says she gladly shared her dad with the party.
He was a member of the party from the time I knew myself, from the time I was about this tall, all the movement through Crab Hill and the dances at River Bay and all the effort that was put into the dances at George Street that my mom attended with him. Those things I remembered, and I know he was very committed to the party. I got information from Margot, the executive member of the branch in St. Lucie. She gave me a lot of information after he had died, and I was very impressed at the commitment and the number of years that he would have given to the party.
The Labour Minister says workers in Barbados still need protection from some unscrupulous bosses. Senator Dr. Esther Bayer-Suckoo was speaking to CBC News on the sidelines of the launch of the annual May Day celebrations at Solidarity House. A number of exhibitors, mostly manufacturers, turned out to show off their products to an audience made up mostly of school children. Senator Bayer-Suckoo says while the work environment in Barbados is relatively stable compared with some across the world, her ministry is still concerned about the actions of some bosses.
In most workplaces, workers come at the bottom of the totem pole. And so they're squeezed. And, you know, while we've done a lot of legislation, you would think that everything is in place for workers and it's airtight. But even with the legislation passed, I have lived to see that there are employers who interpret legislation, who go through it with a fine-tooth comb, who will tell you that their lawyers have interpreted that, yes, it means you don't have to do X, but there's nothing that says I can't do Y. And so they're still finding ways to squeeze the workers.
Senator Bayer-Suckoo says it's for these reasons that May Day celebrations are needed to recognize the critical input of workers to the success of businesses. She also wants more investment in workplace wellness activities, which will go a long way to improving productivity.
We're also seeing workplaces encouraging the social groups, so that they're walking together, they're participating in 5Ks, and they're hiking together, and they're playing road tennis and those kinds of things. We're seeing more of that. We have not yet seen enough of it. We're seeing more of that, and I think what we need to see is more employers investing in it. Not just the workers getting together and trying to raise up, you know, you contribute $1 here, $1 there, but employers investing in it, understanding that such an investment means that the worker is healthier and that the worker is better able to contribute to that workplace.
The Chronic Disease Research Center has been renamed in honor of one of Barbados' leading academics. The facility will now be called the George Allen Chronic Disease Research Center in honor of Chancellor of the UWI, Professor Sir George Allen. Sir George is extremely pleased by the gesture. He also praised the center's work.
And we know now that all of the other things that contribute, other forms of capital that contribute to a country's wealth, health is by far the most important of them all. And the most pernicious threats to that health come from the chronic non-communicable diseases. And I doubt that these facts are known to the majority of the Barbadian public. And one of the things I'm pleased about this center is effort to reach out to the public, to persuade the public that health is an resource that is important in and of its own right.
Pro-Vice Chancellor and Principal of UWI Cave Hill, Professor Udine Barato, explained the renaming complements other efforts made by other campuses to honor Sir George.
On the Mona campus, the Chancellor has already broken ground for a new wing which is to be added to the Faculty of Medical Sciences. Its teaching and research complex and named in his honor. While at the St. Augustine campus, they honored him a few short years ago with the George Allen Health Economics Units building.
Meantime, Health Minister John Boyce also praised the move to rename the center.
This honor recognizes Sir George's legacy and will ensure that his name is associated with an institution that seeks to embody the scholarship in and dedication to medicine and public health which he has demonstrated throughout his life.
The Health Minister says government remains committed to providing funding for the Barbados National Registry. He says it provides loads of information on non-communicable diseases.
At the time, the Barbados National Registry was the first of its kind in the Eastern Caribbean and known to be only one of a handful of such registries in the world. Over the last decade, the Barbados National Registry has made a meaningful contribution to health programming and health policy development in Barbados through its annual reports on stroke and cardiovascular disease and cancer, which delineate disease burden and trends in our community.
There's less than a week to go before this year's common entrance examination. However, a government minister wants less emphasis placed on the school a child will attend and more focus on what they do when they get there. Commerce Minister Donville Innes made the comments while visiting the West Terrace Primary School.
Each child has an opportunity to give of their best no matter which secondary school they go to and stop this stereotyping. I sit in Parliament today with 29 other MPs, and I really don't know where most of them went to school. Nor am I particularly interested. I'm more interested in the contribution that they're able to make to national development. I think that must be used as an inspiration for you young children to recognize that no matter which secondary school you go to, you must apply yourself. You must continue to respect your teachers and others around you. You must recognize that the sky is the limit. And once you give of your best and do these things, you will achieve your full potential.
The minister was speaking after presenting the over 70 Class 4 students with kits in preparation for next week's exam. The school was also the recipient of a new microwave, a donation from the St. James South Constituency Council. Students sitting the common entrance examination in the St. Michael Northwest constituency got a timely reminder that they shouldn't be nervous about next Tuesday's sitting or about the school they will be allocated to. It came from their parliamentary representative Chris Sinclair as he visited the St. Stephen's, Deacons and Eagle Hall primary schools. Speaking at Deacons Primary, he lauded the work of educators across the island for their dedication to student development as well as the commitment by teachers to increase their qualification levels. During the tour, he donated a 32-inch flat screen television along with a number of other educational items to Deacons Primary's Reading Club, and he says they're privileged to be educated in Barbados.
We don't have that particular problem in Barbados. We have other issues and other problems, but in terms of schooling, everybody having a place in school, having excellent teachers, highly qualified, well-trained, having good auxiliary staff to support the teachers in the institutions, Barbados is lucky enough to be able to have that at our disposal. So I know that regardless of whatever happens, that you are well prepared for Tuesday.
Okay, we'll take a short break here and come back with more news.
Promotions presents the Digicel Reggae on the Hill. Sunday, April 30th, Farley Hill National Park. Doors open at 11 a.m. Featuring none other than John Neal, Coco T, Popcon, Capleton, Sanchez, Bugle, Sprague Benz, plus Buggy and the Fully Loaded, featuring Daniel, Risa and Tabitha, Superfrost, Triple X, Easy B, Emperor Reno, and the BCC Reggae Ensemble, hosted by Vane and Peter Coppin. See you at the Digicel Reggae on the Hill, Sunday, April 30th, Farley Hill National Park.
Diamond Dazzler, it's time to play. Diamond Dazzler, the new instant $250,000 scratch game from the Barbados Lottery, available at select lottery outlets.
With a reduction in the level of occupancy for the first quarter of this year, the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association says it is carefully monitoring changing travel habits. Chairman Roseanne Myers says there was a drop in occupancy by about 2% between January and March. She says they have noticed a trend where instead of booking their holiday in the traditional winter months, a lot of visitors are now traveling during the slower periods because the rates offered are much better.
Some of the properties, you remember that we did see at the luxury end, some of the properties speak about a slightly weaker January. Those same properties are now suggesting that their May is a little stronger than it has been in the past. So that is something that we absolutely will have to watch. And right now, if you look at pre-bookings for 2018, it means that people may need to adjust those rates and not assume that the winter guests that always come will always continue to come, and maybe we need to be a little bit more nimble in the way we market to those people to ensure that we capture them, whether in January or in May or June.
Mrs. Myers was speaking during a media conference at Bayfield House to give an update on the sector. Chief Executive Officer Rudy Grant says the BHTA will be working with the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. to promote several new programs to attract more visitors. One of them is the brilliant Barbados Kids Stay and Play Free program. Children under the age of 16 stay free at member properties and play free at several attractions.
We are working in our various source markets with the BTMI in executing that program to ensure that we encourage more visitors to come to Barbados. We are also participating with Expedia in a discount program that is aimed in collaboration with our DTS partners, or Direct Tourism Services partners, and that involves a 15% discount for the period. We are working, that period is between May and October, I believe, and it is one stay, one discount per activity per stay.
Culture Minister Stephen Lashley has disagreed with some critics who say Barbados has not been seeing the benefits promised through the World Heritage inscription. He says rather than the designation stopping new developments in the city in particular, developers simply need to stick to the guidelines laid down. According to him, that applies to those responsible for the Hyatt Hotel and any other projects earmarked for the historic Bridgetown and its garrison. Mr. Lashley was speaking on a resolution to vest the land on which London-born Towers is built in the National Housing Corporation.
You must have interspersed. You must have, Mr. Speaker, interspersed with heritage preservation. You must have the whole question of renewal. That's why we speak of urban renewal. And if you look carefully at any of the projects which have been completed in Barbados, for example, the Central Bank would have completed the Exchange Museum, which was formerly the Mason Lodge building. That project, though well preserving very significant aspects of our heritage, also has certain aspects that are new.
Opposition Member of Parliament for St. James Central, Kerry Simmons, is concerned that there is no legislation to deal with common areas in housing units once conveyances are issued. According to him, there are no rules to dictate how these areas will be managed and maintained.
Who takes responsibility for a number of things? The electrical maintenance. The panels are on the outside. Who takes responsibility, ma'am, for the cleaning of the wells and drains? They're on the outside, but they are a common area. Who takes responsibility for the maintenance of the garbage systems, such as they may be? Again, so that, ma'am, there is an important aspect of this that must be followed through by government in order to save people who are supposed to be the beneficiaries from having to carry an unnecessary burden.
Barbados rum continues to make an impact on the European Union market. In fact, Commerce Minister Donville Innes says exports for the period 2012 to 2016 stood at $89.9 million. He was speaking during a reception and tasting of authentic Caribbean rum brands organized by the West Indies Rum and Spirits Producers Association at the Accra Beach Hotel.
That's a significant amount going into the EU and has nothing to do with Brexit whatsoever. Additionally, it is known that the industry provides valuable foreign exchange and revenue for government coffers in many respects. Now, in respects of our entry into the EU market, I want at this point in time to thank those from the country of France who have seen it fit to invest in the rum industry.
Mr. Innes says efforts continue to chart a course for a sustainable rum industry in the Caribbean.
According to studies undertaken by our private sector trade team here in Barbados, rum was identified as the 4th largest non-service foreign exchange earner within the region, with a notable contribution to employment of approximately 15,000 workers directly and almost 60,000 jobs indirectly to the sector.
Just over 24 city residents are now certified with life skills. They recently completed several 6-week training courses hosted by the St. Ambrose Anglican Church in conjunction with the University of the West Indies and the Barbados Vocational Training Board. Rianne Phillips has that story.
Hair braiding, weaving and wig making were some of the courses offered under Project Equal. It was the brainchild of social work student Juliet Hines as part of her school project, but it also turned out to be a stepping stone for participants.
Most of them have signed up to go on to the Barbados Vocational Training Board to further their studies. I've also chosen, based on my observation, 2 students who went on to do the training at Sandals Resort. They're starting next month, and I'm so happy for that.
Those 6 weeks proved to be quite life-changing for those who enrolled.
I did not know how to plait for nothing, and so through the help of Auntie Meldine, I was able to learn how to plait, how to actually weave, and realize that most of the things I thought were very complicated were actually quite easy. They just seem complicated. In bar restaurant services, I learned different types of wine and what to look for, the specifics that makes white wine what it is.
Auntie Nadine, she was telling me a lot about how I could further, and I might go further in it.
I learned a lot. I learned how to mix the drink, how to serve. I learned how to change the tablecloth without showing the top. A lot of people never see that yet.
We also learn different types of wines, the flavors, and how to appreciate them more. I'll also learn the table settings.
More classes will be held soon.
What we plan to do is to have another course that will deal with marketing, that will deal with budgeting, because we realize that equipping them with the necessary skills to do the braiding and the jewelry making does not mean that they know how to market themselves or how to budget. So that's one of the next steps that we're going to be doing here within the community.
Students receive certificates of participation for successfully completing the courses. Rianne Phillips, Cbc News.
Thanks, Rianne. Well, after the break, we'll take a look at stories making headlines across our region.
Your insurance payment doesn't have to be a burden. At Beacon, we're happy to help finance your premium and spread your payments over 9 months so that it's easier to manage. Call 436-6200 or log on to beacon.co.tt.
MCTV and HBO are hosting a movie night featuring the Angry Birds movie. We're inviting our subscribers to the movie package to join us on Sunday, May 7th, 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Olympus Theaters. Come, watch the movie, take photos with the Angry Bird character, loads of selfies, and just have fun. Why are the birds so angry? Come see Red, Chuck, and Bomb foil Leonard's plans. Collect your movie pass from the MCTV office Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There will be a maximum of 3 passes per valid account number. 2 for children ages 5 through 11 and 1 for an adult 16 years and over. Conditions apply. It's the MCTV HBO Movie Night, Sunday, May 7th, Olympus Theaters. See you at the movies.
MCTV and HBO Movie Night with the compliments of Star Chick, Kids World Rentals, Pix Photo Booth, Pine Hill, Sunrise Chick, and Julie Party Rentals.
Across the Caribbean, brought to you by CIBC First Caribbean.
Also in Trinidad, there is confirmation that the oil spill in the Gulf of Paria is much worse than anticipated. Petrotrin has updated its estimates on the amount of oil leaked when one of its tanks ruptured on Sunday. It's significantly more than the state refinery's initial estimate of 20 barrels. We get more in the CNC3 report.
When we took a pirogue into the Gulf of Paria on Monday, we did not expect to see such devastating effects. More than a dozen birds, mostly pelicans, drenched in oil. And that's because Petrotrin estimated just 20 barrels of oil had escaped its containment. However, at midday on Tuesday, the oil refinery company gave an updated figure which was 15 times the initial estimate. Quote, Incident Command Center indicates that approximately 300 barrels have entered the sea, and tidal conditions suggest that the oil is heading in a southwesterly direction, end quote. Most may remember the December 2013 oil spill that washed miles of shorelines along southwest La Brea beaches. Everyday life was significantly impacted, with cooking prohibited, many falling ill, others moving out due to the nauseating and hazardous scents permeating the community. Residents have experienced smaller scale spills since that time and once again may have to brace for another hit. Aerial photos received by CNC3 show the scale of this most recent spill. And with images like these taking the fore, Petrotrin assures it has implemented a wildlife rehabilitation plan and says it will ensure cleanup is completed in a timely manner with crews working around the clock. Quote, any impacted animal identified will be rehabilitated in established centers in Trinidad, end quote. Petrotrin then thanked stakeholders for their patience and understanding as they addressed the incident.
There's an update on the alleged assassination plot against Guyana's president.
Police will now be able to observe a confrontation between the alleged mastermind and the man who says he was hired in the alleged plot to assassinate President David Granger. Police had indicated to reporters at the weekend that they couldn't find the man on your screen, hence the investigation had come to a standstill. But Tuesday morning, he made himself available to ranks at CID Ivlery. He spoke with Nightly News just before he walked up the stairs at the Criminal Investigations Department. He says the police never contacted him for obvious reasons.
I was never contacted by the police. I was called and told that one police was there saying that I would have some arrest warrant out for me, which I don't know of. So this is all I know, that the only police visited there. Other than that, I was not contacted by the police.
It was the police legal advisor who had returned the file to the police requesting a confrontation. Police Commissioner Silal Prasad had hinted to reporters that once the confrontation is done, the file will be sent back to the police legal advisor. But the man says he's ready to have the confrontation done.
Ready. No problem.
What you're saying is absolutely true.
Should I have been here if this is not true? I would have not been here.
Since the Minister of State confirmed that police were investigating a matter of this nature, the public has heard nothing about the alleged mastermind, other than that he's a very powerful businessman with strong social connections.
What do I intend to say? I'm going to answer whatever is asked to me. And that's it.
You have nothing to hide?
No. Whatever is asked, the truth will come out.
Nightly News learnt late Tuesday evening that even though the man made himself available at CID for the confrontation, he was still placed into the lockups, while the alleged mastermind roams freely.
In Puerto Rico, a doctor and 3 corrections officers have been accused of smuggling cocaine and cell phones into the U.S. territory's prisons. Justice Secretary Wanda Vasquez says that the suspects charged inmates anywhere from $400 to $900 for the contraband. The officers worked in prisons in 2 coastal towns, while the doctor worked at the Correctional Medical Center near the capital of San Juan. The doctor is being held on a $1.3 million bond and the officers on a $350,000 bond each.
Across the Caribbean, brought to you by CIBC First Caribbean.